making up its mind as it wants to stream to the YouTube channel. So that's just kind of what it's going to do, I think. I think almost we're there. I think we're there. Making up its mind as it wants to stream to the YouTube channel. Yeah, here we are. We're on
Here
here.
we are. Oh, we're here. We're here.
We're doing something.
Well, we're here. It's like Horton Hears the Who. That's a
If you
little before your time.
if you just tuned in, yeah, Jeff and I do these talks weekly on Wednesdays. We were using it inside of the Facebook group, but let's reach a broader market. How about that?
How
How
about that?
about that?
How about that? Let's reach whoever we can reach.
So for anybody who's been following me for or Sarpo for a little bit of time, I geek out on coaches and what they do. And basically, I went to San Diego not too long ago to meet with one of mine. And if you follow the internet marketing world, Frank Kern is my current coach, and I have a bunch of programs from him and systems. And if you guys want to learn more about marketing, and well, basically, he's teaching how to get leads and close sales with Facebook marketing, Instagram marketing, and it just dives off the deep end, and you can go in any direction that you want because he also does Google paid ads, and let's just say he's a big wig. Anybody who makes $500,000 a month in passive income is a big wig in my book. So one of his projects, he has this thing called Project Shepherd, which think about ChatGPT, but like he has his own created model with one of the best AI writing tools in the world, and it's used as a tool to help you get content out quick because, we live in a world that's internet based and stuff's coming out all the time. And well, what can we focus on to make sure that we reach our goals? And so today I just thought I'd test it out because I've been putting a little bit of information in it. And I explained to it what NLP was. I explained to it that hypnosis training, business growth, all these different things. And it remembers the whole history of everything that I put in there. So today I was like, oh, we're doing a talk today. Let's come up with something that would be beneficial for our audience. And it came up with a bunch of different things. And I was like, well, let's just go to the basics. And one of the things on the list was overcoming limiting beliefs. Jeff, what do you got? Darpo?
Well, one thing is where are you getting your limited beliefs from? Is it yourself or others? Are you taking it from the things you've learned over the years? Are you getting it from feedback from other people? One, you want to figure out where the source is. Uh, for instance, do you get up in the morning and say, I'm not worthy? Or do you go, I'm worthy, and somebody calls up and says,
Well,
you're
well,
not? Go
think
ahead.
about it like this: a limiting belief could be something that could be holding you back, and you not even understanding that it's a limiting belief.
Well, we could go to the metaphor of the elephant. A little
Yeah.
baby elephant is tied to a stump, and for weeks and weeks, it weighs probably 100, 200 pounds when it's a baby, and they tie it to a stump, and it tries to get away for weeks and weeks, and it doesn't. It can't pull away from that stump. They put a harness over its neck, and they can't pull away. And what happens over time, a few weeks, the baby elephant stops trying to fight it because it knows that he can't pull away from it. Yet, when that elephant grows up, it's 2,000 pounds or 2 ton right now or more, and it still doesn't believe that it can pull away from that stump. Now, this is a belief that somebody trained into this. In the same way with when you're a kid, if people tell you you can't do this, I can't, you shouldn't, you ought, all these, and you believe them because when you're a kid, you don't have a critical factor. So basically, whatever somebody who you trust tells you something, you believe it. So, like when you're a kid and somebody says there's a purple dinosaur in the other room, you're going to believe there's a purple dinosaur and you're going to run, where is it? Where is it? You know what I mean? So, back to the elephant. But if that elephant ever learns, you can't ever train it again to not do that. So, basically, if let's say lightning hit next to them and they figured it out, you kind of we don't have to keep those beliefs because that elephant, we know that elephant could break away from that stump pretty easy because it can tear down a full tree. It can, by its trunk, it can knock over a tree. So it surely can pull a stump. So,
So yeah, the point over there to make is that if you're trained a certain way, you don't think you'll be able to break outside of that framework.
right. And what other limiting beliefs do you have? You know,
Yeah.
talk to yourself and say, just see if you're saying anywhere I can't. If you say I can't, we already shut off. This is a self-limiting belief. When you say you can't do it, not only does it reinforce it in your brain, but it also takes the resources away because your unconscious says, hey, well, if you can't do it, you just can't do it. And
Yeah.
so what we want to look for, if you don't know if you have self, limiting beliefs, ask yourself, where are you saying you can't? And what we want to do to get over a little bit of that is start saying we're working on or we're going to work on to get better at instead of saying can't, because can't knocks out the resources. I know that. See, I go on a tangent. You
Yeah.
clean it up. Clean it up.
Basically, my personal story was that I was a DJ under different talent agencies, and I would see narcissistic personality types, even though at that time I didn't realize what a narcissistic personality type was. And they would go in and what I consider to be fake, but it was like, whatever, as long as they're getting me gigs, I can still pay my bills. And, I just dealt with it long enough to be able to understand what was going on. So I personally thought that I had to be like other people in order to grow a business. So that was my limiting belief. It was like, oh man, I don't want to chase these leads or act fake or do all this other stuff. And I just want to be able to, I just want to DJ. So when I got fed up with it, I was like, well, that was a limiting belief that was holding me back. I didn't realize that I could be true and honest and the most hardworking person in the building to overcome, where I was with sales. It was like, well, I had a company and I was probably 5 to 10 businesses or 5 to 10 customers a year when I was working for other talent agencies. And then it was like, well, now it's time for me to go on my own, but I don't want to be like other people. So I thought it was a limiting belief to me that I had to be like other people. So I just closed that whole door and didn't even go through it until I had other coaches that were opening my mind and saying, no, you don't have to be like this. You got to be honest and true and hardworking. And I was like, yeah, I could do that. So I just put my nose to the grindstone and was able to build my business from 100,000 to 250 to 370 last year. And it kept growing. And it was all holding me back of the limiting beliefs that I had. So what are you telling yourself that you can't do because you're probably not educated enough to know that there's another way that would better suit your identity than that could be holding you back? Something to think about, right? And I actually, because I had all these different skills like editing and making websites and doing all this crazy stuff, I was like, well, how can this not work? And it does work. I just had to, break the limiting belief that I had to be like somebody else when you could just be yourself and shine as bright as you can within your own light. Actually, the way I put it now is like be yourself the most potent you that you can be. And that helps build up your confidence as well. So again, personal stories. I didn't think I could break my sales or be able to live on my own because I had to be something else, and then I was me, and then that was opened up many doors that I didn't even think were possible, and that was all holding me back because I was like, oh man, I don't want to be like somebody else. So something to think about. What are you telling yourself that you can't do, that you'd like to do, yet don't understand that how to get there?
Well, also we have in dream or in our system basically homeostasis. When you're a human, the status quo, basically you feel comfortable in a certain area where you feel comfortable at. So if you, let's say you believe you are 40,000, you should make, and this is a should, I don't like these shoulds, but if you believe you a person who should make $40,000, you'll feel bad when you're not making 40,000, but when you make 50, you're going, oh, I need to take a break. Until we can break over
Oh,
that barrier that we're worthy of more. The self-limiting belief is we'll just stay in this homeostasis thinking we're comfortable here. We got to break through that comfort area to grow to get to the other side of that, because when again, when you don't believe that you're worthy of more, then your unconscious will bring you back down, because homeostasis basically. So what limited belief do you have Is it making money or you're not good enough? We also have the self-esteem issue a lot of times that we're
Yeah.
not worthy, and that keeps us back too. So, and also, I think last week we were talking about value situation, or maybe it was another, but anyway, values. Are you living by your values? Because if you're not living with your value system, you're going to pretty much get lower self-esteem, and that just another rabbit hole you go down, and now you got to get out of that one. So let's figure out what your values are, and then from there figure out what do you want with the well-formed outcome, and then what are you going to do to get it, and what beliefs are keeping you back. Start writing down, and I hate to say why, but go ahead and say why right now is why aren't you there? What do you think? So put all the list, write down a list of what you think is holding you back. And then ask, is it true? Is it really true? Is this really holding you back on each one? And more than likely, if you examine it, it's really not that. So we want to figure out what the core is, what is keeping you from your next move. And go ahead.
Here's some common and limiting beliefs that, the Chat GPT wrote up or Project Shepherd. I'm not experienced enough to charge more. My market won't pay
Okay.
higher prices. I need to compete on price. I'm not as good as my competitors, and I'm not certified or have the credentials. So we could go ahead and break part some
We
of
could
them.
break any of them. So,
Yeah,
so
right.
and those are all limited beliefs, but is it really true? And if you're not, let's per se, okay, one was if you're not good enough, what can you do to get better? Okay, that's our first step. What are we going to do to get better if we're not good enough already? Is anyone else in your industry charging what you want to charge? If they're doing it, you don't have to reinvent a wheel here, because there's already wheels out there. So wheels in motion stay in motion, one thing, but when you stop is where you get stagnant. But let's go back to why we're saying this is, who are the people? Is there nobody out there making the kind of money you want with doing what you're doing? And if you're not good enough, what's the first step to do to become better to get there? We're not, and why do you believe this is a belief? Why do you believe you're not as good as the other person who's making it? And if they do have those qualifications, what are we going to do to get those qualifications so we can be as good or better than the competition? And why aren't you good enough?
Yep.
The
And
point
what
is,
is good enough?
yeah, subjectable, basically. And, so nobody is charging that. And even if nobody's charging it, doesn't mean you can't. And there's no price setting that's legal, I think, here in the US. You can't price set. I mean, that's called a monopoly. We're not doing a monopoly here, but you know, if you want to charge more, but we say if you're going to charge more, have a good product, have a product that's worth more. And yes, if you're not worthy, then get worthy. And what's keeping you from being worthy? Is it really true? See, we want to know where you're getting this information. Is somebody telling you you're not worthy? Are you telling yourself are you not worthy? And if you're telling yourself, really look into it, and it might just be you're taking somebody else's false belief about you and keeping it for yourself. Just like the elephant was trained. The elephant was trained to understand that it can't break away, yet it can. You know, it can break away, and it doesn't. And like Scott, he was under a certain amount of people, and then he can break away, and he did, and he's got a perfect, great example of doing that. And look how he's come, and each year he gets better and better. So wherever you're at, that's
Well,
okay.
there's
But
a
we
lot of
can
things to think about when you talk about these limiting beliefs. Most of them, like the examples, were based on price. And when I go to these conferences all around the US, they talk about how a client will pay more money for somebody who gets a custom service. So if you're telling yourself people won't pay more, well, maybe you're not finding the right people and what is paying more, and you also want to think about what the market is charging, in your area. So that's all relative, of course, but the more information that you have, the more you can make a more educated decision. Yet, if you're stopping yourself from making those moves because you're telling yourself it won't happen, then you'll just never get there.
Well, you just told yourself.
Yeah. So so those are some things to think about. Are you telling yourself that stuff? And I guess we'll just break down how limiting beliefs are formed, right? So we talk about a lot about this in hypnosis and NLP, but basically limiting beliefs are formed by past experiences, other people's opinions, which if you're doing that, I mean, you're going to let other people control what you're doing, right? I don't That's something you would probably want to spend some time on and work with that. Once again, other people's opinions, cultural or social conditionings, a fear of failure, and comparisons to others. You want to tackle any of those?
I'll just do the failure thing.
Okay.
It's sort of like making a mistake, a failure, making a mistake. That would be anything in your life. Yeah, what we find, we're going to throw it over to regret again because a little bit of regret, there's two types of regret: things you did do and you regret it, and the things you didn't do. Okay. So the things you do and you learn from. So this is the same thing here, is that you, when you go and make a mistake with failure, you didn't really fail. You just learned that wasn't the right way to do it. You could go back to when, what is it, Edison with the light bulb, how many
Yeah.
times, and he said, how many times did you fail? He says, I never fell. I just figured another way not to do it that way. And what are you doing every day to keep that away? So just because, and another thing, just because it was yesterday doesn't mean it's going to be today, because we can change. And if we do the same thing yesterday, today is what we did yesterday, it's probably not. So, what are you going to do new today? And again, let's go back to where both of us believe, who cares what everybody else thinks? It's like if you're going to live your life for everybody else, I give an example a long time ago is if I tried to please everybody, and I'd say I can't, but then I would say because I couldn't, and I said if I just wanted to be friends with everybody, I would. If I just wanted to shake everybody's hand in the world, they're all in a line. I'm going to go as fast as I can. By 6 months in, I would have three diseases, and I'd almost be dead, and I wouldn't even know any of them. So some things are totally outrageously stupid to do. Yet figuring out a plan, this is why it's so, when you got a plan, you can start knocking out those limited beliefs. Each one, you take each one that he had a list. Go ahead and read that list again.
So, past experience, other people's opinions, cultural or social conditioning, fear of failure, and comparisons to others.
So all these things is, if you go to comparison, if
Oh,
you ever compare yourself to anyone, you're either going to be above them, below them. So, and you can say, well, we're equal, but when you put yourself above somebody, that's not really necessarily helping you, or below them, then you're knocking out your self worth. And it's hard not to judge. Yet, if we can find ourselves judging ourselves to be our best self every day, and then we can throw that other stuff away, because it doesn't really matter what everybody else has or doesn't have, it's what you have.
so what Tharpa was saying on the comparisons to others, I really had this hit home with me. So I'd always compare myself to other people and be like, "Oh yeah, I'm not like them," which is fine. You're not supposed to be like somebody else. So what happens when you do comparisons with other people? You either feel better than them, "Oh, I did this better than them," which gives you an inflated ego, or you could feel less than, "Oh man," and that leads to depression. Instead of comparisons to others, Russell Brunson talks about model and modifying. So if there's somebody out there who's done a really good job and you're comparing yourself to them, you don't have to compare yourself to them. The best comparison is comparing yourself to you yesterday so that you can do better than what you did yesterday. So when it comes to model and modifying, the path is already road, right? Like so the the path to success or where you want to go because somebody else did it is already done it. So that exact path can't be the exact one that you use. Or, I mean, you can do the best you can to try and copy it. But the best thing to do is to see what they did and then modify it to what works best for what you're doing. So if you're comparing yourself to other people, you're either going to get an inflated ego or end up super depressed because you're not like them, or you can look at what somebody else done and then just kind of modify it so it works best for what you're doing. And there's a lot of coaches out there that will show you the way, and yet not everything they do will apply exactly to what you're doing because they're on a different path, of course. And yet, if there's an olive branch or something already done, just someone offers you help, take it, like, or if somebody has a paid course or something like that and they'll show you everything that they did. That's what I did in the beginning. I spent thousands of dollars on coaches who were successful, and I had to model and modify what they were doing because I couldn't find anybody as successful as I wanted to be that made millions a year. That was a DJ company. No, the coaches out there are internet marketers, and they'll tell you how to, be prompt, be professional. And as long as you're not comparing yourself to somebody else, you're going to do just fine. Just compare yourself to what you did yesterday and then keep progressing.
There you go. Good that. I like that. Uh, Basically understand where you're at, where you're going, where you want to go, and then each day do the ease process a little bit each day. What are you doing to become the best you at what you're doing? So if you do that, again, we don't have to live in regret, and then we'll start knocking out those limited beliefs. So if you're somewhere where you don't want to be, let's make a plan to go somewhere else. Okay. And again, we can go back as what's the blockage? Is it other people? Is it you? Is it all of the above? It could be all of this. So what we want to make a plan is, what do we do each day to go towards what we're wanting? As we get more confidence in ourselves, we'll have the ability to overcome these self-limiting beliefs, because most of them aren't true and some of them are. And then what we do is we get the resources to take over and accomplish what we need to do to let those go down, and just keep doing that, building our whatever we're building. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a company, but take Scott's example of his company just growing like a weed every year, which is great. So, but
Do you want to hear
working
some
on
of the
yourself.
oh, so it listed out some of the signs you're operating under limiting beliefs, which is,
Okay, that'd be great.
yeah, constant self-doubt, undercharging for services. I don't know why I put that there. Over delivering, people pleasing, fear of raising prices, or of avoiding growth opportunities.
Well, one thing a lot of people, again, with the self-limited belief, is think either by other people or themselves, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough to charge that.
Oh,
Then why is your competition good enough to charge that if you're not? And the thing about how much you charge is, one, you could be just trying to take the lower market, because there's always three markets in a marketplace. There's always going to be the upper end, the middle, and the lower. And all three of those make money. So some people just want the cheapest, some people want medium, and some want the best. And they'll pay even more for the best, even if it's not the best. Did you know, I believe in advertisement, the best is the same. If you look up the definition, the best is the same. So I'm the best clown, which is, I'm the same as any other clown in the business, but I'm the best at it. But they're going to say they're the best. And that's subjectable. What you're going to grade that on? Yet the thing about the pricing is, if you're pricing yourself low because you're not good enough, then get better. Jiminy Cricket.
what's the metaphor? The difference between a $5,000 hypnotist and
Oh yeah. Well, years and years and years ago, a magician came up to me and said, "Do you know the difference between a $500 magician and $1,000 magician?" And I said, uh, "Well, what do you think?" He says, "The balls to ask for it." Now, and I said, "Yes, that is true. Okay, this is true. this is true that yes, the ball's to ask for it, and you can get it that one time if it doesn't matter. Yeah, you can ask for it and get it. But I said the stipulation here is that if you if the client thought you were worthy of that $1,000 and they would recommend you to another client to say he did his good and he's $1,000 but he's worth it, yes, that makes you $1,000 magician. And yet if this client goes, oh my God, he overpriced, he was a piece of crap and he's not a very good magician, how can he charge that much? You might want to look into your belief. Ah!
But if you're getting it,
But if you're getting it, the only problem is if you're getting it and nobody's liking you, you're going to lose your business after a while anyway. It'll get around after a while. Either improve, and some people say fake it till you make it. I mean, it's hard to, as long as you're not, I don't know. I'd still say look into it if you're getting complaints. If you're getting everything and they're saying, oh my gosh, you're like, I don't know, a few weeks ago, I charged, and I did charge my regular price, and somebody charged a lot on top of me, and they gave me $100 tip too. And I was like, okay, cool. I mean, uh, I used to get hundreds and hundreds, and my biggest tip really was $1,000 tip, but as an entertainer. But
so you also have to look at what who's telling you this information, right?
right,
Like-
where's the source? And
yeah,
and
yeah.
it could be you. It could be you. You're the one. You're the sabotager. Why? Ask yourself if you're doing it to yourself. Why aren't you worth
Here's something to think
it?
about. If someone tells you your price is too high, I mean, it may seem like a lot to somebody who doesn't have any money, like, right? So I'm charging a more than fair wage for a photo booth, and I had someone tell me it was overpriced and only like one out of I don't know hundreds of sales. And in my mind, I didn't say it, but it was like it may seem like a lot if you don't have any money. Like,
Well,
so
or
you got to be careful about who's telling you that, right?
yeah, well, if we go back to according to who compared to what,
Yeah.
that's, basically what are you comparing yourself to? And that's the same with your self-limiting belief. Who's giving you this belief? Somebody else, yourself? What are you comparing yourself to? Who you're, are these really facts? Are you just have them in your head? And what are you going to do? So that's why what we do is work on some of these things from NLP and hypnosis and stuff.
One
Basically,
thing to keep note is that if you're going to take advice from somebody, make sure they've done it. There's a lot of people out there that'll give you advice and opinions, and they don't know what they're talking about.
and another thing that both of us know, the Scott and myself, is we've been through many, many teachers, and they're all teachers I have found have some merit, or they wouldn't still be in business if they're still in business. If they're not in business or anything, and then you might look elsewhere. What another thing about a teacher or somebody you can work with, your unconscious has to be able to work with them. There's, for example, and I've studied under lots and lots and lots of people, yet it's harder for me to, study under somebody who's really kinesthetic because they talk slower. So when I study under somebody like that, I double the speed so I can understand them, because when they're talking like this and like that, I don't relate to them well. And you'll find yourself. This is where we was last week about, or one of the weeks before, about rapport, our matching and mirroring. Sometimes we find ourselves in the world not being able to understand the person in front of us because they're talking in a different modality, which was the uh, sight, sound. I'm come on, okay. What we see, what we hear, what we taste, what we feel, what we smell. Okay, and we all have those senses in how we take in the world. So you might find that somebody you're talking to just irritates the heck out of you. And one thing, it could be something. that irritates you about yourself. The other thing is that you're on a different modality. So, like if I was talking to somebody who's really kinesthetic, they go, "Well, slow down. Could you just slow down? Would you just slow down? Why are you do you? What are you doing?" Because they can't handle it. So that's why when we give speeches, you would want to do all the group. You would want to start out with the kinesthetic, because if you're giving a group talk to a kinesthetic, you'll have to calm down a little. And this
Well,
is the same way with entertaining. Okay, sorry, we're
no,
going off.
I was like, here's some NLP techniques to keep in mind when thinking about limiting beliefs. Well, first we have language patterns, and then we have self-talk awareness, and then we have finding the root cause, and we have pattern interrupts and reframing exercises. So, want me to start? We'll just do quick.
Pattern here. Stop.
Yeah, I do that with my daughter all the time when she starts getting into a upsetting mood or something like that. I'm like, stop, jump around a little bit, and then we're on to something else.
Right, you take them right off the. It's kind of like me always, because I'm ADHD. I'm on. You can tell when I'm talking. Also, I'm visual auditory. So I'm going. So pattern interrupt, we can each, even with NLP, we can set anchors. We can give them an anchor so they can get back on track too. So there's a lot of tools we can help people get to have an anchor when they do a pattern interrupt, to say, and also when you're going down that rabbit hole, and just say, stop. Is this really want to go? Because uh, you're you're triggered a lot of times. We're already in a loop going down a rabbit hole saying we're not good enough. But sometimes just stop and say, is this true? I like this where you say, is it true? Is it really true? Basically, is this is this is this really the fact? Am I not really good enough? Then what are all the things that makes me not good enough? And then if you really want to change those, but where are you getting this belief? Is somebody else telling you it, or is it just you constantly giving your self-talk? And this is the biggest thing. When I help people, I say, what is your self-talk? Because remember the reticulating activating system. What you focus on, you'll find more of. But what you tell yourself, if you have a virtue of honesty, your unconscious is working on making everything you say true. So even if, for instance, when you're dealing with pain, if you say pain, your unconscious will give you more pain. If you bring the word down to, a little bit discomfort, it's a smaller word, and it takes away a little bit of that. But what are you telling yourself? Am I good enough? Am I a good enough clown? Am I a good enough DJ? Is my company as good as the other ones? Now we're judging a little bit here, comparing, yet why are you not worthy of your money? That's where we, with the low end and the high end, you can market yourself anywhere. But if you're marketing yourself because you don't think you're good enough, then that's self-esteem, or work on your craft. Go ahead.
Well, here's some practical steps to override limiting beliefs. Evidence gathering, creating new reference experiences, visualization techniques, affirmation strategies, and anchoring positive states.
So what I'm going to say is anchoring. Get yourself an anchor. And when were you worthy? Find a time when you were worthy. Have you ever won an award? Have you ever found a place that you felt confident? Go back to that place, feel that feeling, anchor it in. Then you have the anchor you can use when you need it. Uh, Throw another one of those out. My brain is.
Oh, yeah. Well, visualization techniques, affirmation strategies.
Well, visualizing, where do you want to go, and this, picture yourself there in the future. And then again, if you see yourself in the future and you can understand that, map it all the way back to where you're at. Now you have a map of at least a section that you can go towards. And what was another one?
Well, here's one, creating new reference experiences. So basically, if you're telling yourself that you're not good enough, you're probably focusing on failure experiences or something where you didn't get the desired outcome. So you can go back. Well, number one, you could go back to those undesired outcomes and reframe those as learning experiences, or And or you can go to experiences where you were successful and focus more on those and what you did right and do more of that. So there's two different ways to look at that.
And you can learn from the other one and to do both. You can go in there and where you weren't as happy as you were about what it was, and then you can change that or look at it a different way. What did I learn from that? Then you can work on being the best you on this side, and you're going towards your goal, whatever that is. And every time you do something like that, uh, oh, and the other thing about the references, go back and all the time, because some people say I'm stupid, and that's not true. You might have done a stupid thing one time, but when you make it an I statement, it's different. So yes, you might have done a dumb act one time, yet you're going to learn from it, so it's okay. And you could label it a mistake, but yet I label all learning experiences a learning experience. And that's what we're doing, is being our best
Well, they
us.
could be worried about being judged for those experiences.
Yeah, but yeah, and yeah, and yeah,
No
you're
one's perfect, right?
it's just going to happen.
You're gonna get judged no matter what you
Yeah,
do.
yeah, there's nothing you can do about being judged. The thing you can do about it is just not worry about, people judging you. What you want to do, if any judging, judge yourself to be the best you each and every day. And if you work on that, you don't have to worry about everybody else. See, work on yourself. Pay attention to, and you know what they say is, pay attention to your garden. The grass is always greener on the other side till you get the other side, and then it's greener on that side, and you keep going back and forth. Instead of that, what's that said? The saying is, mind your own garden. You know, why are
The
you?
grass is greener where you water it.
Exactly. It is true. But
But really, you could write some stuff down in the comments of whatever you're dealing with or stressful for, and we'll make sure to respond to them. Maybe take a different look or NLP, reframe how you're looking at
love this. See,
it.
really, that as a happiness coach, reframing stuff, find the silver lining. It's the way you look at things. Wayne Dyer kind of thing is basically change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change in your mind, because you can look at anything as a mistake, but you can also look at it as a learning experience. And you can also every I hardly see anything in the world you can't give it a silver lining, a little bit, and just start working on finding the good in life. You get 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day, each and every day. What are you thinking? Positive, negative? Where are you putting yourself, and what are you focusing on? So let's focus on what helps us be a better person and get us out of these limited beliefs that probably are not true anyway.
So, are you celebrating your wins? And ask yourself, are the people around you worth having?
Oh, yeah. Here's a little exercise if you want to figure out if these people around you are good. Get on a plus or minus five. Anyone around you, uh, when you get off the phone with them, how do you feel? Do you feel drained? Do you feel happy? Do you think they're there for you? Now, Scott and I, and probably lots of other people in the world, has put people in the background because when they were in the foreground, they weren't happy. If you go to your friend and say, I just won an award, and they go, oh, that's nothing, then
Backhanded compliments. You'll never
yeah,
do that again. Or did
anybody could have done that.
they slip up on the ballot? Did they pull the right name?
So yeah. So if they're not helping and not supporting you, then those are, and family can be that way too. And what we do with family, we just accept their family and we don't let it bother us that day. Yet we don't hang around them a lot. But sometimes you have to hang around family. It's the same way in business. Sometimes you have to be in a room where people you don't like. Yet what you do is you just kind of avoid those people and go through the process anyway. And there's going to
Probably just
be,
take in the information and analyze it. If you don't want to be around them and you have to be, just listen. You don't have to react. You can just make better decisions from there.
Love that. And so we want. I would like to throw out that four agreements. Go look up the four agreements. Basically, you don't have to take everything personally from your family, even if it is they think it is. Just it's what they say to you is about them, and what you're going to come back with is about you. So let's be our best us. Let's be our best you, or you be your best you, and I'll be my best me. So I really think that's where it all begins. Every day, just be the best you can be, because there's no more, you can't be any better than you can be. And you go, well, you could push yourself harder. Well, if that would make you a better you, go ahead. Yet if it's not, then don't, you know. And there are certain situations, it doesn't matter, like death, life and death situations, you just save your life, save.
Well, always remember, do what you do best, and then hire everybody else to do what they do best. They do the rest.
I like that one.
So for our closing, what are some challenges you can give to our listeners?
Well, one is get up every day and say, what can I do to make this a better day than yesterday? That would be one thing. Um, there would be also a good thing to help them out and say, what am I thank? Get up in the morning, say, what am I thankful for each and every day? And if they wanted to get a lot more done, they could write down the six things that they're going to do today and work on them with importance, and they would get more accomplished, because you just writing it down, it goes into your unconscious. And writing your goals down every day, what you want, and your unconscious will be working on those. And when you find your limiting beliefs, ask it, just put, is this really true? And then go over it and figure out, if it is true, what can I do? If it is true, what can I do? And you go to and work on them every day, and you'll find that those things probably weren't really true. And if they were, you can do something about most of them. And then what we want to do is find counter. If you say, well, I'm not worthy, and you can go where you weren't worthy in your life, but then you go, where were you worthy? And you find all those times. Now you have something to go against the other stack. And then you say, I was worthy in all these, and this is where I'm going to set my, because what you focus on, you'll find more of. So let's focus on the good.
So basically, write down what you're doing. And if you're doing six things a day, maybe the next day you're doing seven things a day, but you want to be able to track the things that you're doing so you can look back on your success and be like, well, I was here, now I'm here. And to say all this stuff with Jeff and me on a call is saying is one thing, and we know everybody's going through their own personal experiences, and maybe they need a little help, finding out what language patterns they're stuck in. Because if you're stuck in one thing and you have the same people around you all the time, we call it a closed loop in NLP or hypnosis. And in order to get out of that loop, you just need someone to kind of challenge you to get out of that, to find out, what new field or grass you can grow.
One
But
thing
yeah,
right there is they can't see what they can't see. And
yeah.
sometimes we can let them see what they can't see, and then they can decide if they want to do it. Because you don't know what you don't know till you know you don't know. And when you want to know, you got to decide, am I willing to do the stuff it takes to know it? So that's the learning process. And a lot of people don't know they don't know. You know what I'm saying? That's what's
There's four
really,
levels of
yeah.
education, right? And then there's, well, are you getting your out of your environment and surrounding yourself with newer people? So what is it? Unconscious competence, competence. Well, when you don't know something and someone brings new information to you, now it's like, oh wow, I really don't know this stuff, but I want to make that part of my new behavior generator or new behavior moving forward. Yet you still have to practice on those new behaviors in order to make it unconscious competence. So example, right? Every once in a while, Jeff and I will use the word try, which we're most likely working on. See, you would use working on instead of try to eliminate that from language patterns, right? So when it becomes unconscious competence, you no longer say the word try, you just say, "Hey, I'm working on this." Well, how far along are you got there? And to emphasize more on the word try is something Richard Bandler did in a experiment on stage one time on YouTube, which I thought was hilarious. Somebody said they were trying on working, getting rid of a memory, And he said, well, that's great. When you try to open a door, what does that mean? It means you didn't open the door. And we also use the word try to build on hypnosis as well. You try to move your fingers, but you can't. You try to move your fingers and you can't. It's a built-in failure language pattern. So you want to, the more you bring that stuff to your conscious, the better you'll be. And the more that you work on that, the better that gets. Cause and effect. Language patterns. It's all in the
Or
language patterns.
another one we really aware of, I can't. So, because when you're saying I can't do anything, it's cutting off the resources to your unconscious that says you don't want to. So, instead of saying can't, we're saying we're working on to go to the next step. We're working on this, and you might not be there now yet. We have the ability to get there. So that's why we're using all these tools that we get to take the next step. So,
So again, what limiting beliefs are holding you back? Write a comment down below. And again, if you want some coaching, go to coachskyking.com. And Jeff, you have any closing statements before we sign off?
really, if you get up and be the best you every day that you can be, then you don't have to live in regret. So think about that and really look into what do you believe is holding you back, and then really ask you those questions. Is it really helping you to be held back, or is there something we could do to change that? And it could just be a false belief, just like the elephant chained to a stump that it could just easily walk away from, yet it doesn't believe it. So we like
Full
most
circle.
a circle. So we
Full
want to
circle back
we
to the
want to
elephant.
break that circle.
Alrighty, guys. We'll
Okay.
catch you.